Understand that sometime about last week there was a strike backed on by foodstuff dealers and some persons that has to do with beef cattle, and that strike of course is affecting Lagos State, which consumes about 50% of red meat in Nigeria. Of course, let's bring in our analyst this morning, Dr. Olukayode Oyeleye, to discuss this. It's good to have you join us here this morning. You understand this matter that is ongoing right now. Yesterday, we were just in the market to see how butchers and those in the red meat value chain are feeling the impact, and the effect is something that a lot of them could not even explain. Of course, we could see the unhappiness written all over their faces. Can you tell us what your reaction is, first off, when you hear about this happening in Nigeria?
Well, my reaction is actually that of disappointment, but I also thought there's a silver lining to this situation, because it's always good to look at the positive side of things. For so long, we've depended on, animals being brought into Lagos in droves and slaughter and feed the populace without necessarily actually looking at a strategy behind how to ensure continuous, undisturbed flow of these animals for the populace. And things should be planned and shouldn't just be left to circumstances. And it's apparent that the event of a week ago had actually led to this sudden scarcity in the market,
which is man-made. Food inflation is above 20%. The CPI is just 16.47%. Of course, analysts would say that these figures are a bit scary. Now, with this blockade, do you think we're doing ourselves harm or good in any way?
Again, like I said, first and foremost, the motives of those who spearheaded the blockade, might be to make a point to their own advantage. But I think it's already leading people to thinking about innovative ways of ensuring that we now have organized system of production, which we have abandoned. They existed before, but we've abandoned them in the past, let's say 2-3 decades. We've abandoned them. But I think this past 1 week, there's a flurry of activities already going on. Individuals, groups of people, and even states now trying to think and strategize to see how they can do things within their domains and ensure that they're not caught napping, like the case of what has just happened in the past 1 week, for instance.
For instance, when we got to the market, you see that a cow that's supposed to be about 100,000 naira before now, it goes for about 360,000 naira, sometimes 400,000 naira. That's like triple the amount of what buyers usually go to the market with. But according to reports, we already see that on the other end, that's on the other side, for those who have perishable goods that are bringing them from the north down to the south, they say they have lost about 10 billion naira. How can we use export to drive or improve our foreign reserves in this case?
Well, before I answer the question, I would like to say that it was very unfortunate that this kind of blockade arose in the first instance. It shouldn't have happened at all. And it brought about some underlying issues that people had taken for granted over the years. And it also sent wrong signals to people. In other words, part of the discussions that I have listened to or followed on social media was beginning to drive a wedge between the north of the country and the south, and the narratives are scary. But of course, that is because in social media you find all manner of conversation there. But on a deep introspection, I think the issue now is such that it's opening people's minds as to many of the things that we have taken for granted over the years. Now, there is this assumption that we would always get a quantum of what we need, of perishables like pepper, tomatoes, onions, and cucumber,
foods.
And carrot. Basically, the perishables from the north, and which is very good, really. And I think it's very good because as a big country like Nigeria, we should be talking about division of labor. We should be talking about specialization because one, Lagos is you can conveniently call Lagos a megapolis, and you don't expect so much of farming activities going on in such an environment. But there must be other places from which the food must be produced.
To balance the food
yes,
chain.
The northern states that are mostly agrarian, which is to their advantage really, should be looking at the business side of this. I give you a typical example. During the time of Governor Saidu Dakingeri of Kebbi State and Governor Babatunde Raji Fashola in Lagos, they came up with this model of what is now called lake rice. Kebbi State was producing the raw paddy. Lagos was taking it up and then processing. Yeah. And that's a very good business model, I think, which should be replicated in other areas, in other commodities, in other parts of the country. And so if we look at this, and if we see that interdependency, we will not be talking about this sudden, waking up in the morning to just say, look, we're not going to allow these commodities to move from this part of the country to another. It's actually an unfortunate development. But of course, right now, states are already beginning to think about what to do. I give you a typical example. As at yesterday, I am aware that the commissioners of agric in the southwestern states have been meeting. Yeah. Albeit online, at least trying to put heads together and think about what can be done. It's actually a belated action, but better late than never.
Of course.
So I think these are the kinds of things we are talking about. But the point I don't want us to miss is this. There shouldn't be this schism between us, the North and the South, because we are interdependent. Some of the narratives that people are bringing up, retaliation and all of that, I don't think we should be going that direction. I think we should be going towards the direction of how can we harness our strength? How can we use, like I mentioned, the lake rice model, how can we replicate this in other areas? We have the resources. And there's the market. So we should be thinking about how to link the sources to the market. These are the kinds of things we should be talking about. Well, states still need to produce because apart from Lagos and River states in this country, I think almost all the other states in this country are basically agrarian. And so we should be looking at all what we can produce. And we have diverse agroecological zones that we can produce all manner of things. You have root and tuber crops in the southern part of the country, grains in the north, as staple crops.
But looking at all these advantages that we seem to have at our beck and call, it's difficult to understand how we've not been able to drive, our foreign reserves with the agricultural sector.
Well, I think it's not really difficult. The facts are all there for us to see. I think our overemphasis on the free money we get. States don't work for the allocation. The federal government doesn't work for the allocation. It all comes from the oil in the main. Okay, in recent times, we now talk about taxation, revenue from taxation and all of that, and maybe a few other sources, but those ones are still very infinitesimally small compared to the quantum of what we get from oil revenue. And so people sit down, and the politics in this country had, become woven around this oil, such that, people don't really think about any other thing again. You go to various agri ministries in the states, you don't find any meaningful activities going on.
But looking at that, I think that's just changing. If you look at the last 5 years, CBN interventions seem to be focused on agriculture sector. And just a couple of weeks back, we had agriculture also contribute to the gross domestic product. But the question I'd like to ask you is, when do we get to see that change? Or are we expecting some sort of transition period to see that change that agriculture has?
Well, some changes actually started. I don't know. I mean, history, in recent years, I think it's not too far away. Between 2011 and 2015, there were changes. There was agricultural transformation agenda that was a very robust intervention. I happened to be, at least one way or the other involved. And we saw things changing, and international community was beginning to take note of Nigeria. The question we should be asking, you're talking about CBN driving agriculture. Well, I think CBN is actually set up to be in charge of monetary policies. Okay. Fiscal policies may be little, but fiscal policies shouldn't be the main area of concentration of central bank. There's a whole Ministry of Agriculture, Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. That should be at the front line, driving changes in agriculture. CBN could support. CBN could, come in with resources. But the critical mass of the expertise that you really need, you find in the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development, and that's the truth. And so all this talk about central bank, leading the cause in agriculture, my own take is that, look, central bank shouldn't, do it all alone. Central bank should only partner and possibly just support what the Federal Ministry of Agriculture is doing. That's my own take, and I think this is the way we should be looking at it. So when we are talking about when are we going to get it right, this and that, we were getting it right. What happened since after 2015 is what we should be looking at, because one, there were statistics, there were data. At least I have access to some, and I still have access to some. The question we should be asking is what happened. Now, presently, even with the central bank's work, where are the data? They should be able to present the data, and they should be able to articulate it so that the public can see. I mean, these are the issues, and because you should be asking this question: where are the experts in central bank, agronomists in central bank, mechanical engineer or agricultural engineer in central bank, maybe veterinarians in central bank, animal scientists in central bank? Where are they? Because you need a critical mass of these to be able to do stuff. Because I'm still trying to figure out exactly how central bank is driving agriculture, in all sincerity. Well,
I hope we'll get to see what change they have to bring to the table. Dr. Olukayode Oyeleye, an agri business analyst, thank you so much for joining us on the show.
Thank you.